Today we're diving at first into the Obi Kubana and City Boys movement saga. If you've been on X or Instagram lately, you know it's everywhere. The drags, the memes, the fancies, and even fake resignation news. So let's start off with the basics. Obi Kubana, also known as Obi Kubana, is not a stranger to public attention. He is an Anambra-born boss that has built an empire in nightlife, hospitality, and even philanthropy. Remember his mom's burial in 2021? Money was flying around like confetti. I think that burial put him on the global map as the king of Igbo lavish celebration. And he's got clubs like Kubana Sports in Lagos, in Abuja, and beyond. And when we talk about philanthropy, it's donated to schools, to roads, and even youth programs. But that man is not just a money man. He's a symbol of Igbo hustle and success. Now, about the City Boys movement, it's a youth-driven group that was launched in 2022 to rally support for President Bola Tinubu's 2023 presidential bid. And this movement is led by his son, Tinubu. I think it's all about renewed hope for mobilizing young folks, especially in urban areas, with vibes of empowerment, networking, and political engagement. Think of it as the APC's Cool Kid Club, and also the counter movements like the Obedience, that's the Peter Obi's fan base. Now, this movement is not a formal party wing. It is a strategic arm for youth votes, for events, and for influence ahead of elections, specifically for President Bola Tinubu. Tinubu is the face and is also responsible for presenting letters and hosting forums. Now, you might wonder why all this drama. On February 3rd, 2026, Tinubu visited Obi Kubana's crib and handed him an appointment letter as Southeast coordinator of the City Boys movement. And then boom, social media exploded. You see videos showing Obi Kubana mumbling the "On your mandate we shall stand" chant. I think that's the APC slogan. He then goes ahead to post on Instagram saying, "I am a city boy," defending it as service and engagement and not politics. It says that the Southeast can never be sidelined anymore because we are now fully involved. But let's talk about the reaction. Very mixed. Some cheered it as a bridge to power, others called it a sellout, and we're going to unpack that later. But for now, let's think. Is this genuine inclusion or 2027 election strategy? You can see Tinubu's camp poaching big names to weaken Peter Obi's group in the Southeast. Now, quick question time. If you're Obi Kubana with all your clout or your fame, would you take this role? And if you would, why would you take this role? Could it be service? Could it be strategy or pressure? Let me know in the comment section. Now, Arise News anchor Rufai Osheni weighed in saying, Obi Kubana can stand on the mandate, but Nigerians are suffering. You see him highlighting the disconnection between elite movement and public pain. And that's a very smart point because it's very correct. While some high-profile people like Obi Kubana, that's a billionaire businessman, are aligning with the ruling party and celebrating political appointments, the average Nigerian is dealing with severe hardship. Quickly, let's watch the clip.
He has a right to his political affiliation. But let's say it's pump and plain. A lot of Nigerians are not standing on the mandate. They are standing on the mandate of poverty and hunger and deprivation. They are standing on the mandate of a casino economy that is not growing, economy that promised too much but is not giving the people anything. You see, just this morning we're talking about how they're saying they want to build a 1 trillion economy, but with 5,000 megawatts of electricity, we can't even do 10,000 megawatts successfully. I want to build a 1 trillion economy. So the other 1 trillion economies, they did it on 5,000 megawatts, right? So you see, that's the joke we have become.
Aside Rufai Osheni, Very Dark Man, also known as VDM, has come out to speak, calling Kubana a glorified errand boy. Let's also have that clip.
Kubana, open your mouth. Open your mouth. No, they do as if they force you. Open your mouth. Open your mouth. Sorosoke Obi. Sorosoke Obi. No, they do as if they force you. On your mandate, which mandate? Errand boy. Boy mandates. Boy mandate. It's a shame. It's a pity. It's a pity. They do as if they force you. You know where you have always been. You know what you have always been. You know where you belong. You know who you are. If people don't care about your people, do you care? It's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the money, you know. Oh, your man, they looking as if, okay, yeah, they force them, or maybe they hold on for somewhere, or maybe something. You have always been there. That's why you people never spoke for the Nnamdi Kanu when your whole people was agitating.
Now you might wonder why all this backlash from people. Why are people talking about this? Why are they so particular about it? I mean, people have rights to choose whichever party they want to support. They have a right to do whatever they want to do. But then in this case, why are people talking about it so much? Obi Kubana is not just any man. He is someone that is seen as Igbo pride. And joining Tinubu's camp feels like betrayal. Aligning openly with the ruling party, which many people in the southeast as historically marginalized, it feels like a sellout to some people. And with the 2027 elections approaching, people are seeing Tinubu's camp deliberately poaching influential southeast figures to weaken Peter Obi's stronghold on the region's youth vote. Elites are celebrating this appointment, they're chanting the slogans, but you see ordinary Nigerians, they're dealing with the brutal economic reality. Talk about inflation, high cost of living, fall prices, food scarcity, unemployment. One thing is clear, this saga, it is far from over. You see the drags, the memes, the defenses, the counter defenses, it will continue as we head towards 2027 election. It's not just about appointment, it's a lot. It's about the 2027 election positioning. You see APC trying to eat into Labour's party Southeast base. It's about youth political mobilization, about the city boys and the obedient. It's about class anger. I mean the elites and the masses, people suffering, the poor and the rich. It's also about regional sentiment. The Southeast is feeling used, we are feeling tokenized. Let's move to social media and take a look at some of these comments. Now we have this comment from Real Matthew. Don't let anybody deceive you about city boy movement. Remember Obi Kubana's popularity couldn't help his own blood brother win when he contested a House of Representative seat. So the endorsement City Boys movement isn't just about winning any votes, it's about a social media marketing to create buzz for the Asiwaju campaign. Nothing more, they have no political relevance in the East, not only social media shalaye. Now, looking at this comment, I think this person is making a bit of a sense. When Obi Kubana's brother contested and lost the election, I think this person is trying to make reference to that. And then we have this next comment from Eki Baba. Eki Baba says, Obi Kubana no dey feed anybody for Southeast aside his family. Ndigbo will not leave Peter Obi, who has been supportive of education and hospitals, because he is now a supposed coordinator of City Boys movement. Basically, what this person is trying to say is whether Obi Kubana supports Tinubu or doesn't support Tinubu, or whether he's in the City Boys movement, it doesn't concern anyone, because Peter Obi will still have the support of the Igbo people since he has been supportive of education and hospitals. And then we have this next comment by Young King. Young King is saying, sometimes the real test of a man is not poverty, but opportunity. Not every offer is a blessing. Some are traps wrapped in elevation. Obi Kubana accepting the role of Southeast coordinator for the so-called City Boys movement organized by Tinubu and his son Sheyi is not progress. So basically, this person is saying that Obi Kubana accepting that offer from the City Boys movement and from Sheyi Tinubu is not something that should be counted as progress. And then moving on, in essence, what these people are trying to argue is that the City Boys movement is superficial hype. I mean, without substance in actual politics, especially in eastern Nigeria. And then this appears to be a skeptical or critical take amid ongoing political discussions around Tinubu's support structures and ahead of future elections. Now, we cannot really tell how much this would affect things until the 2027 elections. However, I would keep watching. You can't tell if Obi Kubana joining the City Boys movement will change things for Tinubu, if it's going to help progress things, or if it's not going to change anything. But then, like I said, we are going to keep watching. And staying right here in Nigeria, President Tinubu made a big security pledge at the National Economic Council conference a few days ago. He said he's committed to making Nigeria safer, promising more funding for police and military, better training for officers, and stronger partnerships to fight banditry, kidnapping, and insurgency. He also linked it to the economy too, talking about how security is key to attracting investment and creating jobs. To get the fuller picture of what Tinubu said, let's watch this report.
The second edition of the National Economic Council Conference opened.
Declaring open the second National Economic Council Conference at the State House in Abuja, President Bola Tinubu reaffirmed his administration's commitment to restoring peace and strengthening Nigeria's security architecture. President Tinubu says that infrastructure development, social investment programs, and human capital initiatives will remain central to the renewed hope agenda.
We have recorded notable achievements that reflect our commitment to cooperative federalism and inclusive development. This, first, state and local government now receive increased and more predictable federal allocations, improving their capacity to pay salaries, invest in infrastructure, and deliver social services. I'm confident that the resolution of this conference will include dairy farming, livestock investment, ranches, and diversification of our agricultural produce. I promise you here, I'll play my part.
Speaking at the conference, Vice President Kashim Shettima described the National Economic Council as a vital platform for consensus building and coordinated action, stressing that inclusive growth must translate into real opportunities for Nigerians across all regions.
Presents a unique opportunity to onboard new governors and deepen our shared understanding of next role in shaping Nigeria's economic destiny. To align federal and state strategies with the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 and the Nigeria Agenda 2050, especially in poverty reduction, job creation, and social protection.
To rise and observe a minute's silence for all those who lost their lives in a mindless attack in the villages of Woro and Nugu in Kwara State.
Participants observed a minute's silence for victims of terrorism across the country, while the president expressed confidence that resolutions from the conference will strengthen national development and advance peace in the nation.
Okay, so you've heard President Tinubu himself saying security is the foundation for everything else. I'm talking about more funding, better training, and working with communities. And he's tying it directly to the economy, saying these things bring investment, and that makes sense, honestly. But the question in this report about how it will be funded and whether it will really reach the ground is very, very real. For us, the hope is that this translates into safer roads, fewer kidnappings, and farmers going back to their fields without fear. And from the government side, this is a clear commitment, but we want to see actions, not just words. But let's look at this at both sides. On one hand, this pledge sounds good, and if it works, it could reduce those roads attacks and villages raids that keep people up at night. But from the government's views, it's about showing they are serious, especially after recent attacks like the one in Kwara. But let's be honest, many people are hearing and they are thinking, we've had promises like this before. Past governments have said similar things, but corruption eats the money, equipment don't arrive, and communities still don't trust the security forces. Now, could this be real change or just words? I mean, we know it's a step, but we want to see action. If the money is used transparently and actually reaches the officers and communities, it could change things. But if it disappears into the usual pockets, then it's just another speech. For everyday Nigerians, security means being able to travel without fears, farmers working their lands, kids going to school. If Tinubu follows through, it could bring peace, it could boost the economy, but if not, frustrations will grow. And let's hope it's the start of something solid. And for you watching, what do you think? Do you think community partnership really makes a difference? Imagine vigilantes and police working together, sharing information, patrolling jointly. That's very powerful. That's like a balanced view. Government needs to listen to people on the ground. But if the community starts seeing, we've been saying it, so if the community sees the police as them instead of us, it won't work. So the pledge is good on paper, but execution is everything. Otherwise, it's just talk. And let's not forget the cost. More funding is good, but where is it coming from? From taxes? From loans? I mean, we need transparency, so it's not just for the big boys. And think about the human side for the average Nigerian. The trader on the highway, the farmer in the village, the mother sending her kid to school. Security shouldn't be abstract. It's being able to move without fear. Security is not just about guns, it's about peace of mind. And if this pledge leads to real results, it could change lives. When people feel part of the solution, things will change. But we need to earn the people's trust. If the pledge is backed by action and transparency, then it could be a turning point for us. But if it stays on paper, disappointment will grow. But let's keep watching. Security is everyone's business, and everyone should see how it is being handled. And speaking of security tools, there's a related story that came up right around the same time. I'm talking about the $1.4 billion defense acquisition deal. Nigeria is now acquiring 24 fighter jets and 10 attack helicopters from Italy. The government is buying new weapons, armored vehicles, drones, helicopters, basically modernizing the military to fight Boko Haram, to fight bandits and other threats. And that's very serious hardware. The M346FA is a light attack and advanced trainer jet. It is fast, it is versatile, it is good for close air support, reconnaissance and trailing pilots. And then the AW109 is a multi-role helicopter. It can do attack missions with rockets or missiles, reconnaissance, and even transport. And from the government perspective, this is exactly what the pledge looks like in action. Modern equipment to patrol skies, support ground troops, respond faster to attacks, and even protect our borders. And it's not just about buying planes and choppers. The deal reportedly included training for pilots and technicians, maintenance support, and even spares. So it's about building long-term capacity. Our air force gets stronger, and our people also get skilled. But let's look at the other side, because this is a conversation we need to have. $1.4 billion is very massive. Nigeria's debt is already very high, so many people are asking, why spend so much on 24 fighter jets and 10 attack helicopters when hospitals lack drugs, schools lack desks, and people are struggling to eat? Could some of that money go to youth employment programs that prevent young men from joining bandits in the first place? And I think that's a fair question. We also have critics that point to past defense deals. Some have been dogged by corruption allegations, so transparency is key. The government needs to show exactly what is being bought, how much it costs, and what the training package includes, how they will be used. I mean, if people don't see that, there is not going to be trust. And think about the ordinary person in Maiduguri or Zamfara. They don't care about any airplane or any chopper. They care whether they can sleep at night without fear of attacks. So if these jets fly patrols, spot kidnappers from the air, and the helicopters provide quick support to troops on the ground, most people would say it's worth it. But if it sits on the tarmac, it will only benefit a few people, then it's a waste. And then there's another angle. If a stronger air force with these jets and helicopters can scare off criminals and insurgents, sometimes the sound of engines overhead is enough to make them think twice. But then again, balance is needed. Security without development is empty, and development without security is impossible. The government says this will transform our air force and national security, but the question about cost and oversight is very, very real. For us, the average Nigerian, the hope is that these choppers and these helicopters will make Nigeria safer. We hope for fewer attacks, and we hope for more peace. However, we're going to be watching how the money is being spent, whether the training happens, and whether lives on the ground actually gets better. Security is everyone's business, and everyone should be able to see how it is being handled. If the pledge and this deal work together, we have more funding, modern equipment like these jets and helicopters, we have community trust. And this could be a turning point. But then if not, the disappointment will only keep growing. So let's keep our eyes on this one because it is very, very important. Now, in another development, popular Nigerian social media activist and influencer Very Dark Man, also known as VDM, has declared the ongoing push for electoral reform through protest as dead on arrival. Now, this has sparked widespread reactions online. He argued that the protests, which have seen youths and some political figures gathered at the National Assembly in Abuja to demand changes such as electronic transmission of election results and other reforms to Nigeria's electoral system, lack the proper leadership to succeed. But before we dive in, let's watch the clip.
About electoral reform, that's one not concern you. Of course, electoral reform concern me. But I can't waste my time and energy to go there because it is dead on arrival. The people that are pushing it now, they are trying. But they are not supposed to be the ones to push it. They are supposed to support the right people to push it. Who are the right people? The people that are directly involved in the election. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the people that Nigerians are expecting to take power. The people that Nigerians believe that, oh, if this person come into office, this person will make Nigeria better. On social media, they are screaming Peter Obi, Atiku. They will prefer Peter Obi, Atiku, or any other name other than Tinubu that is currently the president. So who do you think is supposed to be at the forefront talking about electoral reform? Peter Obi, Atiku, Kwankwaso, or El-Rufai. These are the people that are supposed to be standing there. Not some youths. The youth are supposed to support them from the back. The youth are supposed to rally around them. Not the other way around. But you have some youths going there to say, oh, electoral reform, electoral. You can't do nothing. There are some tricks in the election. Peter Obi have been voted for before. Atiku have been voted for before. They have campaigned before. They've contested before. They know some tricks that a lot of these people that are standing there don't even know. They know what it means, what it feels to be cheated. Because if you ask Atiku today, Atiku will tell you he won the last election. If you ask Obi, Obi will tell you he won the last election.
Now, VDM's comment came after a recent demonstration at the National Assembly calling for electoral amendments ahead of future elections. And notably, Peter Obi has been spotted participating and supporting related protests, which some online users pointed out as contracting VDM's claim about absent elite leadership. Now, his statement has divided public opinions. Supporters of VDM, often referred to as his Ratels, have echoed his view that the movement lacks structure and real impact. Critics, however, accuse him of discouraging youth participation in a critical national issue and labeled him a tool for certain political interests, with some calling his position scripted or aligned with ruling party narratives. You see, VDM remarks have trended heavily on social media. People are commenting on it, and I want us to take a look at some of these comments. We have this first comment from Cristiano Senior responding to Dami Dami. This person is saying, people have not realized that VDM works for the government. He cannot involve himself in real issues that will challenge their hold to power. He may act some dramas with the Ministry of Education or EFCC, but those issues do not challenge their hold to power and is allowed. Now, this is relating to what I just said a few seconds back, that VDM is like someone that the people in power orchestrated to say some certain things that will look like is countering what they are doing, but then in real form, in real sense, is actually working for them. And then we have this comment from Kapalot responding to Obayong Oji Painu. So what Obayong Oji Painu said first was, "It no go ever better for APC and VDM mama." And then Kapalot responded saying, "Nothing concerned VDM in the state of governance in Nigeria. He is doing his part as a citizen. If he chose not to protest, leave him alone. It's not Nigerian president. You aren't at the protest ground also. You and I aren't there. Then why is he the victim? Hashtag electoral reform." So I think this is one of the Ratels saying that what VDM choose to do is not anyone's problem, and that people should leave him alone, saying he's not Nigeria's president. And people who were not at the protest do not deserve to say a thing. I mean, why are you going to talk? I mean, why are you talking if you were not there? And then we have this comment from May. May is saying, "LOL, VDM has made a video trying to detract the protest. It's only a blind person who doesn't realize that VDM, Shore, Deji are all controlled oppositions. Their work is simple: water down, discredit, and control the opposition." So I think this is also relating to what the other person said, that VDM works for the party in power and they are working to control or to water down the opposition. But in Shore, I think I have a little bit of an issue with the Shore there. I'm not really certain about that. But then the person of focus here is VDM. Then we have this next comment from Choma Okafor. Choma Okafor is saying, with all due respect, VDM, but you are wrong. If the election is being rigged and the wrong person is put in power, who do you think will be the direct recipient of that corrupt government? When there's inflation and insecurity, who do you think will be directly affected? Who will feel and carry the weight of it all? It's the same citizens, the youth, the poor masses. I'm not saying that those people you mentioned shouldn't come out as all. But every single one of us has the same rights to demand for and protest against what the government is trying to do. The affairs of this country affects all of us directly, both big and small. It doesn't matter who pushes it. So what Choma Okafor is saying, if you could recall, in VDM's video, he was saying that the youths are not supposed to be the one spearheading the protest, that it is supposed to be the person that wants to contest. And let's say maybe Peter Obi, Atiku, or whoever wants to contest should be the one spearheading the election, and then the youths can now rally around, can now act as support, that the youth shouldn't be at the front of the protest. But what Choma is trying to say here is that, this thing affects all of us. It affects the everyday Nigerian. It affects me, even affects you. So I should be the one at the front saying I want better governance. I want everything. I want a change. I can't sit in my house and wait for the person in power to go and protest for me. If the wrong person should get into power, it is going to affect me. So instead of sitting in my house and waiting for the person that wants to contest to go to the protest ground, I will be the one going there. So I think I support what Choma Okafor is saying. So let's go back to our conversation. You see, many people have viewed the statement as actively demotivating young Nigerians from leading or joining the push for reforms like electronic transmission of results. And the people that commented argued that reforms benefit ordinary citizens, and that's very true. And you see, many people view his statement as actively demotivating young Nigerians from leading or joining the push for reforms like electronic transmission of results. The people commenting have argued that the reforms benefit ordinary citizens, and I support that. Now you might be wondering, what is the cause of all this drama? The root cause of it. What prompted VDM to make that video? We all know that since the 2023 election, Peter Obi has remained a vocal critic of Nigeria's electoral system. He has positioned himself as a leader in the push for transparency and accountability. And he has repeatedly highlighted issues like network glitches that is cited by INEC during results uploads. And he has also insisted that excuses like poor network coverage are outdated in a digital age. Peter Obi's advocacy often frames electoral reforms as essential for restoring public trust in democracy, especially among youths who feel disenfranchised. So in various public statements and interviews, Peter Obi has called for amendments to the Electoral Act 2022, particularly strengthening Section 60, which deals with result transmission. He argued for mandatory electronic collation and real-time uploading to the IREV portal directly from polling units, which is supposed to eliminate manual interference that could enable rigging. Now, this stance aligns with broader civil society demands from groups like Yaga Africa and the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. These people have long pushed for tech-driven reforms to curb electoral malpractice. And as of February 2026, Peter Obi has taken a more active role in leading public demonstrations for electoral changes, particularly ahead of the 2027 general elections. On February 9, 2026, he led and joined hundreds of protesters at the National Assembly in Abuja under the banner Occupy the National Assembly. The process was sparked by the Senate's decision to remove the real term from the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which critics argue that it undermines the safeguards against manipulation. Now, demonstrators, including youths, civil society organizations, and opposition figures, demanded the reinstatement of mandatory real-time electronic transmission of results from the polling unit to a central, publicly accessible system. Peter Obi addressed the crowd, urging lawmakers to reconsider the amendment, stating that network issues are no longer acceptable in ensuring transparent elections. He also emphasized that simple electronic transmission is feasible and crucial for credible polls, and also energizing supporters who view him as a symbol for reform. For visual context, please let's see this clip.
Process must be transparent. Our electoral process must be free and fair. I've said it several times. If you want to answer His Excellency, if you want to answer distinguished, if you want to answer honorable, the process through which you come into office must be honorable, it must be distinguished, and it must be excellent.
You see videos from the event show protesters marching with Peter Obi, holding placards and speaking passionately about protecting Nigeria's democracy. The demonstration drew heavy security presence but remained peaceful, with calls extending beyond transmission to include broader reforms like electronic collation and stricter penalties for electoral offences. The push for reform stems from long-standing issues in Nigeria's elections, including violence, ballot stuffing, and technological failures. The 2023 polls, marked by delays and glitches, led to international observers like the European Union noting systemic weaknesses. And you see Obi's leadership in this protest, it is seen by allies as a strategic move to pressure the APC-led government and the National Assembly, controlled by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, to enact changes. Opponents, however, view it as early campaigning for 2027, where Obi has hinted at running again, possibly under the African Democratic Congress, also known as ADC, as mentioned in a recent rally. And if this is successful, these reforms could enhance election credibility, it could reduce litigation, and also boost voters' turnout. Yet, resistance from lawmakers suggests a political battle, with some arguing that full electronic voting might be premature given infrastructural challenges. Obi's efforts have unified diverse groups, but it has also sustained momentum that would depend on the public engagement. Now, turning to social media has amplified the event, with Twitter posts describing Obi as leading from the front and rekindling hope for a new Nigeria. Let's take a look at some of these comments. We have this comment from BIA Pulse. BIA Pulse is saying, Peter Obi is currently leading the push for crucial electoral reforms. We must ensure that the transmission of election results is made mandatory directly from the polling units to the INEC IREV portal in real time. Nigerians, this is our democracy at stake. Everyone must join this protest to demand transparency and protect our votes. Our future depends on it. Stand up now. I support polls. I really support polls. I mean, this is our future at stake. This could make or mar our future. So I think this is the time all of us are supposed to stand up. This is when we're supposed to protest. This is when we're supposed to demand transparency. It is in this time that we demand the right process for our electoral transmission, for the results, the best way for the result to be transmitted. If we stay quiet and watch these people make decisions for us, I think we are just putting ourselves in a very difficult and a very tight spot. And to avoid that, we just have to do what Paul is saying, to stand up, to demand transparency, and to protect our votes, because our future depends on it heavily. And then we have this comment from Nefatiti. Nefatiti is saying, Tinubu is leading the politicians, Obi is leading the masses. So choose wisely. Who do you want? Or government of the politicians or government of the people? I mean, the answer is very obvious. This person also further said, Peter Obi's electoral value has more than tripled. By joining Nigerians at the National Assembly, he rekindled the fire in millions. Many had lost hope since INEC rigged the 2023 presidential election in favor of Bola Tinubu. Only the presidential election was affected by the glitch. I was afraid that millions had logged out of the process, but not anymore. Now, looking at all these comments, in summary, while Obi isn't formally leading legislative reforms, his role in mobilizing protests and public discourse has made him a de facto figurehead for electoral change in Nigeria. Driven by his 2023 experiences and commitment to transparency, as 2027 approaches, his actions could reshape the political landscape. And we are going to be anticipating that, so let's keep watching this story even as it evolves. Now, moving on to the next story, Somalia and Saudi Arabia have maintained diplomatic ties since Somalia's independence in 1960, with relations strengthening in recent decades through economic aid, humanitarian support, and security cooperation. Saudi Arabia has been a key donor to Somalia, providing financial assistance for infrastructure, for education, for counter-terrorism efforts against groups like Al-Shabaab. This partnership is part of Riyadh's broader strategy to expand influence in the Horn of Africa, a region that is critical for Red Sea trade routes and maritime security. Somalia, emerging from decades of civil war and instability, has sought international alliances to rebuild its military and to assert sovereignty, particularly amid threats from insurgencies and territorial disputes. You see, historically, Saudi Arabia has supported Somalia in international forums, including the Arab League, where Somalia is a member, and also the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Economic ties include Saudi investment in Somali agriculture and fisheries, as well as scholarship for Somali students. However, the relationship has evolved amid Gulf rivalries, with Saudi Arabia often countering the influence of United Arab Emirates and Qatar in the region. On February 9, 2026, Somalia and Saudi Arabia signed a Memorandum of Understanding, also known as the MOU, on military and defense cooperation in Riyadh. The defense was linked by Somali Defense Minister Ahmed Mualim Faki and also Saudi Defense Minister Prince Khalid Salman bin Abdulaziz. On the sidelines of the World Defense Show 2026, a major international military exhibition, the MOU aims to strengthen the framework of defense and military cooperation between the two nations and also covering multiple areas of mutual interest. And the specific provision includes training and capacity building, meaning Saudi Arabia will provide training programs for Somali Air Force, and also enhances skills in combat, in logistics, and in leadership. It also means that there will be equipment and technical support, like assistance in equipping Somali troops with modern weaponry, for vehicles, for technology, and also including potential transfers of advanced systems. There will also be intelligence sharing and counter-terrorism. I'm talking joint efforts to combat terrorism with a focus on Al-Shabaab through shared intelligence and coordinated operation. I'm also talking maritime security and defense planning. Collaboration on securing the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, including anti-piracy measures and protection of shipping lanes. There's also exchange of expertise like regular consultations, joint exercises, and technology transfers to bolster Somalia's defense capabilities. Now, when you look at this agreement, it is described as serving the strategic interest of both parties, with Somalia's Ministry of Defense emphasizing its role in enhancing security and territorial integrity. There's no specific financial figures that were disclosed, but reports suggest Saudi Arabia may provide budgetary support to cover salary shortfalls for Somali security forces. The pact comes amid escalating tensions in the Horn of Africa, particularly following Israel's recognition of Somaliland as an independent state in December 2025, and they are also the first country to do so. Somalia views Somaliland as part of its territory and has warned against any Israeli military presence there, seeing it as a threat to its sovereignty. Mogadishu has sought regional alliances to counter this, including a similar defense deal with Qatar weeks earlier. The agreement also reflects Gulf rivalries, with Saudi Arabia aiming to sideline the UAE's influence in the region. In January 2026, Somalia terminated its military agreement with the UAE, expelling the UAE-linked operations and accusing them of destabilizing activities tied to a Zionist agenda. Saudi Arabia has also proposed replacing UAE's port investment like the DP World with its own, and also reports indicate advanced talk for a Saudi naval base in Laskori, which is in Somalia's northeastern regional state. When you look at this agreement also, it could significantly boost Somalia's military capabilities, aiding its fight against Al-Shabaab and improving maritime security in piracy-prone waters. For Saudi Arabia, it enhances strategic footprints in the Red Sea, countering Houthi threats from Yemen and securing trade routes vital to its economy. However, it risks escalating proxy conflicts in the Horn of Africa, where Gulf states vie for influence, and analysts warn that it could strain relations with the UAE and also Israel, potentially leading to increased militarization around Somaliland. On a positive note, it may promote stability by professionalizing Somali's forces and fostering joint counter-terrorism initiatives. Somali officials hail the deal as a massive step forward for sovereignty and for unity. Saudi leaders also described it as part of a broader defense partnership signed at the exhibition. So in summary, the Saudi-Somali military agreement represents a pivotal shift in regional alliances that is driven by security needs and rivalries, with potentials to reshape one of Africa's dynamics as Somalia prepares for future challenges. And away from that, let's shift gears to something international but still very relevant to Africa. Russia and Tanzania just finished high-level talks in Moscow, and they are deepening their strategic ties. They talked energy, mining, trade, and even military cooperation. Now, you see, Russia wants to invest more in Tanzania's natural gas fields and minerals, and Tanzania wants to help Russian technology, their weapons, and also help its infrastructure progress. Now, this one is very interesting. Let's take a look at this footage.
Tanzanian Foreign Minister Mahmoud Kombo and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov hold talks in Moscow. During the meeting, Kombo delivered a letter from Tanzanian President Samia Hassan addressed to the Russian President Vladimir Putin, the latest sign of strengthening ties between the two countries.
I once again thank you and His Excellency President, also together with the whole team from your side, for elevating our strategic cooperation, and that was mentioned in the President's speech when she was speaking to the world via all the diplomatic missions and international organizations in Tanzania.
Russia and Tanzania have expanded cooperation in recent years across defense, trade and energy.
I would like to express our satisfaction with cooperation between Russia and Tanzania in international organization, the United Nations first of all, but also in the context of Russia-Africa strategic cooperation. We are now discussing the timing and venue of the third Russia-Africa summit.
The talks come as Russia steps up engagement in East Africa, with Tanzania emerging as a key partner, moving to trade in national currencies, bypassing the dollar, and launching direct Moscow-Dar es Salaam flights.
Let me start with the positive side. For Tanzania, this is very smart. You see, they get a partner who's willing to come in with money and know-how without too many lectures about governance or human rights like some Western countries do. You see, their gas projects could mean thousands of jobs. It could mean better electricity, more revenue for the government. Their military cooperation could bring training, good equipment, maybe even help with regional security issues. And from Russia's side, they need friends, but friends outside the West. I mean, you see, the sanctions after Ukraine made them look to Africa for trade, for investments, and for influence. So think about it. Russia brings cheap loans, quick deals, and they're not afraid to work in places others hesitate. Tanzania gets options. I mean, they don't have to only depend on China or the West. And that's diversification. And you know diversification is power. But let's not romanticize it, because there's other side to it. So I'm already saying Russia's deal often come with hidden costs like debt traps, loans that look easy but become hard to pay back, and also corruptions. I mean, big contracts that sometimes benefit elites more than ordinary people. And then the military part, Russia has been supplying arms in Mali, in Burkina Faso, Niger. Some say it even helps fight jihadists. Others say it props up juntas and then prolonged conflicts. And then the environmental impact, it is another thing to worry about. Mining deals can destroy forests, it can pollute rivers, it can displace communities. And the people who work in mining in Tanzania say foreign companies, they come, they promise jobs, but when the minerals run low, they will leave. And then the local people are left to polluted waters and no alternatives. So Tanzania has to negotiate carefully. I mean, make sure these contracts have local content rules. Make sure it has job quotas, environmental protections, and even skills transfer so Tanzanians can learn and run the project themselves. That's the key. You negotiate from strength. You don't just accept every deal because it is cash. Look at China's loans. Some countries are struggling to pay back. It might be the same for Russia. But if Tanzania does it right, it could be a win-win. And for the rest of Africa, this is a signal. More partners mean more bargaining power. And when the West pulls back, Russia steps in. When China slows down, Russia offers alternatives. But we must be smart. Dependency is very dangerous. Sovereignty should mean everything. If I was to advise the president of Tanzania, I would tell him to demand 3 things in these deals. I'll tell him to demand local jobs. I'm talking minimum 70% Tanzanian workers and trainings for them too. I'll ask him to demand environmental safeguards. I mean, independent audits, no pollution, let everywhere be clean, and also transparency. Like public contracts, no secret clauses. If they get those, then it's a good deal. If they don't, you walk away. And for our listeners in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Kenya, it's the same advice I would give. More partners are good, but you need to protect your future also. Now, what do you think, people? Do you think Russia is a good partner for Africa, or should we be careful? I want you to drop your thoughts in the comments because I'll be reading them all. And now let's talk about something that eats our pocket and our future. Africa's gold crisis in 2025. You see, Egypt is buying more gold to build its reserves. It is protecting against inflation and dollar weakness, while Ghana is selling gold to pay debts and stabilize the cedi. To understand what I'm talking about better, let's watch this detailed report.
Gold is meant to be Africa's insurance, but in 2025 it became a pressure point across the continent. Some countries bought gold to protect their reserves, and others sold it to cover urgent needs. Now that contrast is clearest between Egypt and Ghana. According to the World Gold Council, Egypt was Africa's biggest gold buyer in 2025. In Cairo added 2.5 tons, which is a small amount globally, but Egypt's goal was to use it as a financial shield. Now gold shielded reserves from dollar swings, and purchases came straight from local mines to keep wealth inside the country. And Egypt launched a Pan-African gold bank to centralize refining and trading. Now Guinea followed a similar path, though on a smaller scale. The West African country added some gold to match its reserves with its mineral wealth. Another country that followed the same model is Zimbabwe. The country is testing a new gold-backed currency, which is called the ZiG. Gold acts as a physical vault of proof, preventing overpricing and giving the currency real value by not overprinting. And for these nations, analysts say that gold is insurance against future shocks. Burkina Faso took a different route. The country mined a record 94 tons of gold in 2025. Mining reforms, stronger state oversight, and a push for resource sovereignty drove output to a historic high. While Egypt and Zimbabwe focus on buying gold, Burkina Faso is controlling production from the ground up to fund national survival.
Now you see, this is a tale of two strategies, and Egypt is playing chess. Gold is a safe asset when currencies are shaking and they are stocking up. They are thinking 10, 20 years ahead. But you see, Ghana is playing survival. High debt, their currencies are dropping. So you see, they sell gold for quick cash, for salaries, for fuel, for imports. They both have logic, but Egypt's move is long-term nation building, and Ghana's move is immediate survival. But critics of Ghana says it is short-sighted, and selling gold when prices are likely to rise later is like selling your family land to pay today's rent. You solve today's problem, but you create tomorrow's crisis. So when prices go up, the government sometimes forces sales or taxes heavily, and when prices drop, small miners suffers the most. So for Ghana, selling now might keep the light on, but if gold hits $3,000 an ounce in 2 years, they will regret it. And gold is more than just money for Africa. It is jobs. We're talking miners, transporters, traders, families. Whole communities live from it. But illegal mining will destroy rivers, will destroy forests, will pollute waters. Price swings, they hurt small-scale miners the most. They don't have reserves to fall back on. From one side, building reserves like Egypt is smart. It protects the country from economic shocks. But from the other side, selling like Ghana is survival. You pay salaries, you buy fuel, you keep the economy moving. The both view is balanced. They both make sense in context. But long-term planning will always win. And we should aim for Egypt's strategy. We should build reserves, refine gold here, create more jobs. Now let's talk about Nigeria. We have gold in Osun, we have gold in Zamfara, in KB. How does this crisis affect us? You see, gold prices are global. If Egypt buys big, the prices will rise. It is good for our miners. And if Ghana sells a lot, prices will dip temporarily. And it is bad for small miners. And then the bigger issue, Africa produces raw gold. They export it, then they buy back jewelry and electronics that are made from it. We lose value. We should build refineries. We should create local industries. And then talking about the environmental side, mining can destroy communities. We need sustainable mining. We need strict rules. We need rehabilitation of lands. We need clean waters. Now let's look at the balanced view. Gold is like a blessing if you use it well. But if you mismanage it, it is a curse. Now, what do you think? Should African countries hold gold like Egypt, or should we sell like Ghana? I feel like it depends on the situation. If you're stable like Egypt, you build reserves. If you're in crisis like Ghana, you sell what you must, but only with a clear plan to rebuild those reserves later. Now, looking at long term, we should also aim to be like Egypt, strong, strategic, forward thinking. And for Nigerians, we need to stop exporting raw gold and start adding value here. Gold is our heritage, so let's use it to build our future and not just survive for today. So back to you. What do you think? Should we sell or should we hold our gold? I want you to drop your thoughts in the comment section. And finally, a story that breaks the heart. The Mediterranean shipwreck off Libya. A boat that was carrying migrants sank, leaving 53 people dead or missing. Survivors says the boat was overcrowded, there was no life jacket, and rough seas flipped. Who goes on the sea without life jackets? Well, let's watch this news report.
Thank you so much for taking the time. It's always a great pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for joining us. We move on now. And 53 migrants, including 2 babies, are dead or missing after a large rubber dinghy capsized off the coast of Libya. According to the International Organization for Migration, the boat began taking on water 6 hours after setting off from Zawiya, a town in eastern Libya. The passengers, mostly migrants and refugees from several African countries, were attempting to cross to Europe. Libyan authorities rescued 2 Nigerian women, one of whom lost her husband and the other lost both her babies in the wreck. The IOM stated that many boats leave Libya heading for Italy, specifically the island of Lampedusa, though the open dinghies used for such journeys are unsuitable and unsafe.
This is honestly very devastating. From one side, these people are our brothers, they are our sisters, young men, women, even children that are fleeing from war, from poverty, from hunger, from Sudan, Eritrea. They're risking everything for a chance at a better life. And on the other side, European countries are saying they can't absorb more migrants. So they tighten up borders and they fund Libya Coast Guard to stop the boats. And now Libya is in chaos. Different control groups from different parts. The Coast Guard is sometimes accused of pushing boats back into danger instead of rescuing them. And this tragedy repeats years after years. Thousands have died in the Mediterranean trying to reach Europe. But let's be balanced. The people living are desperate. They have no jobs, no safety, no future at home. And in European countries, they face real challenges. They're facing integration, resources, even public opinion. Now, the problem is that the system fails everyone. Migrants will die. Europe is struggling. The root causes at home are being ignored. For us in West Africa, this is personal. Many of those people lost are from our region. Families back home that are waiting for news that never come. And you might wonder why people take such risks, because staying feels more dangerous than living. We need to make staying viable, like providing jobs, peace, opportunity. And Europe needs to also offer safe and legal migration routes so people don't have to risk the sea. And back to Libya, Libya needs stability. The chaos there makes everything worse. The African Union and the ECOWAS should push harder for safe returns. They should push for legal pathways, and they should address why people leave in the first place. Because it's not just an European problem, it's an African tragedy too. But let's hold space for the families of the 53 people who are gone. Their dreams were the same as our own, and that is to have a better life. And I pray they rest in peace. So let's work harder so that no one else has to take that journey, no one else has to follow that path, and no one else has to lose their life this way. And with that, we have come to the end of today's broadcast. Please do not forget to like this video. Do not forget to drop a comment. For every question that I ask, please drop a comment because I will be reading them all. And do not forget to also share this video and also subscribe to this channel because it really helps a lot. And when you subscribe, turn on the notification button so you'll be one of the first people to get the notification whenever we drop a new video. I'm your host for today, Chinyere, and this is Waywayves.